All right, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate you finding us. Now we're gonna head up to Gainesville. We've had a lot of news coming out of Gainesville, both on the football side and now the basketball side with what's going on with Coach Todd Golden. And no better person who's right there in the middle of it, writing about it, covering it, sourcing it, and all the rest. Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, regular here on the podcast. Kevin, welcome back, sir.
It's good to be back with you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so an adventurous couple of weeks up in Gainesville for sure. Let's start off with the Todd Golden situation. Obviously this kind of the news kind of broke middle of last week about the allegations and that stuff with the student newspaper with reporting that. How does in a city like Gainesville, a little tight-knit community, college town, how does that stuff get? I mean, was there any whiff of this coming down the pipe before the student newspaper broke it? How does that kind of stuff work in your world?
Well, we had heard some rumblings in the spring, and then we heard it was resolved. And then obviously some things percolated up until last week. I can't get into too much the specifics of my reporting,
Sure.
but I can tell you that, it was an on and off situation throughout the fall that, you started to hear some things here and there. But that being said, I think going forward, obviously very troubling allegations, but allegations, and there's a chance for due process. I think Florida, obviously not suspending him. That's a little hard to read. There is a Title IX policy right now that basically says that that prohibits schools from handing out unfair penalties for those of the rights of the accused. So that could possibly be a reason, although I couldn't get Florida to necessarily confirm that as a reason. But he is still coaching, and we addressed the situation with him Monday night. He stood by his statement, which is that he is engaging in a defamation lawyer, and offered a few. The question that I asked really was, what's your message to women fans? And his response was basically, keep supporting us, let due process play out. We did a fan story as well, and it seemed like the fan reaction was mixed. They seem to want to know more, and they're not really going to know more until the investigation is complete. So I think that's kind of where we are at this point.
From the fan in me looking at the situation again, I'm not in it at all. Don't have any vested interest in any of it. So a couple things that surprised me. One, you didn't hear Todd Golden come out and say categorically, "I did not do this. This is not. I'm not involved in this at any level." That was not said. And regardless of what a lawyer wants you to say, if you're 100% innocent, you would say that if you were the head basketball coach, I would think, or a high profile figure in a situation like this with the allegations that are coming out about what they, what are being alleged. So that's number one to me. You didn't hear Todd Golden say that, and I thought that was a little bit odd as well.
Yeah, and I do think that him by his social media statement on Saturday, which he stood by, retaining engaging in a defamation lawyer, I think somewhat says that, but maybe not to the strength that people want to hear.
Right. The next thing is I would say what again, another part, just again, from me, from my point of view as a fan, I was shocked that they allowed him to coach Monday night against Grambling. I mean, I know there's due process, but they could have put him on paid administrative leave or whatever. I'm shocked that, that he walked out there was the coach on Monday night.
Again, yeah, and I thought that might have been due to the Title IX policy, the change in Title IX policy, where maybe they couldn't suspend him
Okay.
because of that rule providing more rights for the accused. And if you look it up, it came in 2020. Now, they still could have suspended him if they felt that he was a threat to someone's health or safety.
Sure.
That under that rule, but it sets the bar pretty high. So, I mean, that's a possibility. But again, I couldn't get Florida to confirm it.
Right.
But listen, Florida also has a slogan, on its walls, "the championship experience with integrity." So I do think, I could see both sides of it, and I could see some fans are saying like, "Hey, why not?" Until this thing plays out, why not put them on paid administrative leave because of how it reflects on the program? I mean, there are two sides of it, and I can see both sides of it.
from Scott Strickland's perspective, is this a very dangerous line he's toting here? Because if this blows up in his face and Todd Golden is, if it turns out that Todd Golden is guilty of something to this degree and they have to remove, and Scott Strickland kind of didn't jump out on the forefront of this, is this potentially a problem for Scott Strickland moving forward as well?
Well, you would have to think with everything else that's going on, it probably is. And I think that, I would say that, but I think they think, and I don't know if they've done any kind of internal investigation on this. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. And if they have, maybe they feel confident that the allegations are not truthful. They're certainly going all in on it. And of course, not to mention Todd's success as a basketball coach, the fact that he has the program on an upward trajectory.
Right.
It made the NCAA tournament last year.
Right.
You would wonder if this was coming off 2 NIT years, if it would be different as well. But I do think that certainly, I think for Scott, a little nervous because, and also because, like I said, Todd Golden has probably been one of his best hires. If you look at it,
right.
Certainly with the way the situation that Billy is going down, and if this scandal persists and if these allegations are found to be true, it's going to be another black mark on Scott's resume.
And then we'll transition back to football because there's a line here. Very coincidental. I don't know if it was coincidental or if it was intentional. Last Thursday is when the note came out about Billy Napier coming back, which created a little stability. I'm sure, again, who knows if there's any correlation to this, but just funny how the next day is when the Todd Golden stuff really hit the media hard. Any thought that there might have been was there any lean to keeping Billy Napier because of maybe what was going on with Todd Golden, or were those two completely separate decisions?
I think they were separate decisions, but I think it was more because of the result on Saturday, the Texas game. I think they knew that was coming. Because they're playing their third string quarterback and kind of playing a game with DJ Lagway. But I think people close to the program really knew that, listen, there's a grade 1, 2, 3 hamstring with DJ Lagway. I mean, I'm told by my people that, he's probably not going to be back until Florida State. So, you're going into that game with a third string quarterback. You're really banged up. I think they knew that result was going to be ugly, and they wanted to get out on the forefront of that. Because you're coming off a game in Georgia where, listen, Florida put forth a good effort. And you're doing it for recruiting too, especially with moving up on December 4th. You're trying to create some stability that way. And look, Scott, again, in that situation too, he doesn't, I think he's holding on to the fact that Billy Napier can turn things around. I mean, they have invested a lot in that freshman and sophomore class. And you would be worried that if you got rid of the coach, that would all blow up, and including losing DJ Lagway, who, listen, when he's healthy, has shown signs of promise as a quarterback. I mean, really, an impressive way to throw the deep ball. But, my concern going forward to DJ Lagway is now he's got a track record or a history of being injury prone. So, can you count on him for a full season next year? That's going to be one of the questions with this regime if he comes back as well. But, can you count on him as a dual threat quarterback? Is he, gonna, injure his hamstring again or do something? Can he make it full third season? But it's gonna be interesting to see, going forward on the football side, how they handle this. And obviously, you've got 2 straight ranked teams in Florida State, which is obviously another program really in dire straits. But I think that if there's any chance of them making a bowl game, I think they're going to have to beat LSU. I don't see them being Ole Miss.
Right, I agree.
At the end of the season, you get to 6 wins maybe.
And I made the argument last week and the last couple of weeks that if Napier wasn't retained, I thought DJ Lagway could be the most coveted free agent in the country in the transfer portal, theoretically, because of what he's shown in his limited time that he has played.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. And I know that there are rumblings that a certain program down south that's losing Cam Ward would have went after. Texas A&M would probably go after him, back to his home state where he's near Willis, Texas. So I think that all that goes into play. I agree with you. So I think that was another reason why they decided to give Billy another year. And look, 4 years, a full recruiting cycle, it's fair.
Yep.
But I really do have to question Billy and his staff's recruiting, in that the track record the last 2 years is he's shown that he can't build a roster that withstands the rigors of the SEC. Guys are getting injured all the time, and like I said, that the physicality of this league, you got to have guys that are durable, and that has not shown to be the case the last couple of years.
Is there any chance, if things were to get really ugly the next 3 weeks, and let's say you lose to Florida State as well, is there any chance they change their mind, Scott Strickland and the administration, or is that pretty much we think he's going to survive no matter what happens?
Based on everything I'm hearing, my sources, he's all in on Billy regardless. I mean,
Okay.
I think they view the rest of the season as basically a wash because of all the injuries and because of the hand he's been dealt, and losing your top two quarterbacks.
Yep.
That they're gonna press forward in 2025 and be pretty intentional with NIL and in the transfer portal market, and try to build the best roster they can.
And to Billy's credit, give him credit. Up to last week, obviously, with the third, until you got to the third string core, they were super competitive. Tennessee, Georgia. I mean, they probably, that Georgia game, they probably, I won't say going to win the game, but that game goes to the wire in Jacksonville if Lagway's in the game. If not, Florida wins the game, because they were beating Georgia pretty good there for the first two quarters. And obviously that game changes when Aiden Warner has to come into play. But to his credit, he's galvanized that team, and they've continued to play hard for him. Whether they're talented enough, whether he's coaching them up enough, that's a different question. But the effort level, you can't dispute the effort level, right?
Yeah, no. The one thing, yeah, Billy hasn't lost the locker room. I can tell you that. And in talking to players and even parents around the program, they believe in him with regards to what he's trying to build. But that being said, that's
Right.
only results are results. I mean, and he's 2-14 against ranked teams, and has only one win against a rival, and that was Tennessee last year. I mean, the results are going to have to pick up, and he will be out of the seats going into year 4 for sure.
Do you anticipate any coaching changes, OC, DC kind of situation, or do you think he's going to try to stabilize there and just keep developing? How do you see the coaching staff?
I think there'll be changes, but we will see. Something I wrote about yesterday was the OC situation, and whether I think a lot of people are wondering whether this fourth year came with conditions that he had to get an OC. But we heard that last year too, and we heard Willie Corn's name floated from Liberty, and nothing came of it. And Billy held on to the plays. And, the reason why was basically he talked about his chemistry with Mertz. The offense could really take off. Well, Mertz had an injury ravaged year. It didn't work out. But, next year he might say the same thing. Look, I've got this chemistry with Lagway. Look at what we did when Lagway was in there. So I think Billy has proven that he really wants to hold on to the play calling. And that's going to be an interesting fight. And I don't think necessarily that it's a done deal that he's going to give it up. Now, could it happen? Yeah, it could happen. But I don't think that this, message board rumor mill that, it's a foregone conclusion isn't accurate.
Last two questions, I'll get you out of here. What's the sentiment around Gainesville with the fans, the public? You're out in the grocery store and restaurants. What do you get? Is the sense of they make the decision to bring Billy back? What's kind of the sentiment in the public opinion?
Yeah, some frustration and bewilderment, and some that are saying, "Oh, well, they did look pretty good with Lagway, in terms of when he was healthy, and maybe give him time." It's pretty mixed, I would say, 50-50 in regards to that. But there is still a large contingent that doesn't think Billy is up for the job. And like I said, we're going to continue to see how it plays out. It's going to be it'll be an interesting fourth year to say the least. But he is definitely going to be under the gun to have a winning and a productive season.
And here's the other part that people don't realize. You have to weigh, if you're gonna buy Billy Napier out, it's gonna cost you probably $20 million, something like that, something in that neighborhood. Would you rather invest that money in NIL to some degree for a year, or would you rather pay Billy Napier not to be the coach and then have to do that? And so there's some financial decisions and weighing that you have to make if you're the university as well. That's part of this equation as well. How is to give the audience a little sense of just the strength of the NIL program at Florida compared to some other places?
It's getting there, but is it as good as the heavyweights? That's what I've always wondered. I mean, Ohio State has set the bar right at 20 million.
Right.
So I think that it's in better shape than it was a few years ago. But it's always, like I said, it's always in comparison to the rest of the SEC. And is it where it needs to be to compete in that conference? And I would say that there's probably, like I said, there's probably some
there's room to grow. There's room to grow.
There's some progress there, but it still is ongoing progress. And you've got to you've got they've really got to work on particularly this offseason, upgrading the talent and upgrading the depth. Really, I think that's the thing.
And do you think the NIL is a direct reflection of the coach? Meaning, if they had a high flying, Lane Kiffin kind of guy, that NIL would be as plentiful as it need to be, or do you think it's just a booster problem?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I think it's hard for some of the boosters to get behind the program. I think it's a cultural situation too, because this was always a program the last 20 years that prided itself on compliance. They were
right.
So I think even getting, and I've talked to some people involved in NIL in Florida, even convincing or getting people to realize, hey, this is the way to go now, has been a little bit of a paradigm shift, and some boosters haven't warmed up to it as much as others.
All right, last question on basketball, and you're out of here. Where does Florida go from here? Let's say Todd Golden stays the coach. How do you think that this whole thing's going to affect the program? And just give us a quick little synopsis of the Gators as they've played a couple games now. Again, a lot of expectation, a lot of hope this year. Give us a quick little update on the Gator roster.
Yeah, no, I think Todd did a pretty good job in the transfer portal again. I look at these guys, Sam Alexis and Ruben Chinyelu and Elijah Martin, and they've all been productive in different aspects through the first 3 games of the season. I think the roster is a little more athletic, a little bit of a better defensive roster. And then offensively, I think it's different guys, different nights. Walter Clayton running the point will be interesting to see through the course of the season. Certainly when you looked at a guy like Zion Pullen last year, he was one of the, steadiest point guards that, they've ever had in terms of assist to turnover ratio. Walter, I think if he gets pressured a little bit, it's going to be interesting to see, but if he can keep the turnovers at a minimum and he brings that weapon as a scoring point guard, scored 29 in the season opener against USF, which is really something. They haven't, hit a bunch of threes yet. They've been kind of on the perimeter. They've, but they're still beating teams by 15 or 20 points. So I think that's a pretty good sign, because I think perimeter wise, sooner or later, this team is really going to break out and, have one of those games where they hit 10 or 15 threes. And, maybe they're saving it for that game up in North Carolina in December. That'd be something.
All right, we'll find Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, all over social media. Check, if you want to read about the Todd Golden situation, he's done some great writing there, and obviously we'll continue to cover the Gators as well. Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Find him on. Give me that Twitter handle, that X handle, one more time.
Yeah, at Kevin Brockway G1, and you can find my work on Gainesville.com and Gatorsports.com.
Yep, does a great job covering the Gators, and he'll be all over these 2 big stories that are unfolding up there in Gainesville. Obviously, the Billy Napier return, and then the Todd Golden situation that's ongoing here with the administration and the university. So, Kevin, appreciate the great work. Enjoy. You got what, LSU coming to town, correct? Saturday.
Yes.
What time's that game?
3:30 on ABC.
3:30 ABC. Again, you're getting the LSU team reeling off the Alabama blowout. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of crowd we have in Gainesville as well. See if Gators can get one step closer to bowl eligibility.
And don't forget, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's quarterback, played a year at Buchholz High in Gainesville. It's kind of a homecoming for him, and his dad, Doug, was the former under Jim McElwain. So
that's true. That's a great point there too. So enjoy the game, Kevin. We'll talk real soon, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.